He's Brian, I'm Sri. It's a pleasure to be once again at Asia Society and to have this great turnout on what's a terribly rainy day. And we're going to have a very informative discussion here with Brian, and we're going to have a chance to also see this movie that has moved so many people around the world. And what I'd like to do is to tell you a little bit more about Brian before we start. You have the detailed bio in the handouts that you got, but let me tell you a little bit about him. He is the co-founder, as you heard, of the Smile Train, and he has been involved in various surgery-related charities for more than 17 years. So this is not a new venture for him, and he also shows the value of having kind of a steady hand on a nonprofit for an extended period of time. And he's also been involved in this in not just working at it at headquarters, but kind of traveling the world and kind of being a hands-on director, and that makes a big difference as well. His background is in business. He has a business economics degree from Harvard and has worked in advertising for more than 20 years. And he founded a high-tech agency which was sold to CKS, which was America's first publicly held interactive ad agency. And I think it'd be fair to say, Brian, that you had to use all of these skills and everything you've learned to run a charity. And today's conversation is really about how technology is driving corporate philanthropy now. And what I hope is that you can tell us a little bit about where Smile Train is today and tell us about the journey that's gotten to this point. We know there'll also be a lot of questions about the movie and Pinky and everything else, and we'll try to get through them. We want the audience to understand this is a two-part conversation. You and I are going to talk first. We're going to watch the movie and then come back up. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, all of you, for coming tonight. It's an honor to be here. I apologize on behalf of Charles. He was in his helicopter over the East River, and they sent him back to JFK, and then he came back in, and they sent him back to Farmingdale, so he took the hint and stayed on the ground out there.
A lot of us had the same issues today.
Yeah, my helicopter is in the shop, actually. My background was technology marketing, and Charles is the co-founder of Computer Associates, so it's no surprise that we use a lot of technology at the Smile Train. In fact, I don't think the Smile Train would exist if there wasn't the internet and all the other wonderful things that are available. A couple examples for training. To train surgeons in the 78 countries that we're in that speak over 100 different languages would almost be impossible to do if you were just sending American surgeons or whatever surgeons in a traditional fashion. So we developed virtual surgery software that's in the hands of more than 20,000 surgeries that they use on their own computers and train themselves. Most of it's watching interactive 3D videos, and we have a new simulator where they actually use the mouse and turn it into a scalpel and perform the surgery completely on the computer. Another good example is patient charts. We operated on our first 2,000 kids in China, and I'll never forget, we said, send us some charts. We need to find some cute pictures to do some marketing because I'm a marketing guy. So they sent 50 charts from China, and it cost $200. And we said, my goodness, what are we going to do with all these charts and shipping them around? So we came up with the idea of a digital patient chart, and it took us 2 to 3 years to develop. But today, 10,000 charts come in every month digitally via the web. And that saves us millions of dollars of storing and sending and managing little manila folders with 10 pieces of paper and 6 to 8 photographs. We did it to save money, but another benefit came about when we started to look at quality and safety. So today, of the 10,000 charts that come in, we kick out 10% that go to a Cleft expert in Texas and grades them for quality and safety. So we have a quality rating for every surgeon, more than 1,200 who are participating in our program, and no hospital in America has anything like that. And there are all kinds of other digital things just with the internet. Like every day we get emails from Iran or Peru, or I must admit I've gotten some emails and I did not even know that the place was a country. I won't tell you what it was. But it's just fascinating. On Christmas I got 3 emails from Baghdad. So
asking for help?
Saying happy Merry Christmas, or, you know. So the world, it really is flat. That book is true, and the Smile Train is a great example of what you can do when you embrace the technology and look at it that way.
So you've been ahead of the game in sort of how surgeons use medical records, for example. So you've moved to the electronic medical records well before a lot of other doctors.
Well, when we got into that, we went to NYU and we said, how do they teach cleft surgery? And Joe McCarthy, Dr. Joe McCarthy over there is the Pope of plastic surgery, and he's the editor of these 16 volumes that every plastic surgeon has to read. And he pulled the book down, I'll never forget this, and he went to the page on cleft surgery, and there was this little 2D drawing, very crude, out of the 1950s. And that's how they're teaching medicine. So you read that, and then you go into an OR, and a surgeon says, see, I kind of cut here, and then I kind of do this. It's archaic. So we looked at that, and we, working with Cork Cutting, who's a great cleft surgeon and kind of a computer nerd, came up with that idea, and it's really been fantastic.
Are there other applications for what you've developed, so that it's not just for the Smile Train, but for teaching doctors across America?
Well, they're off and running at NYU looking at various other surgeries, heart surgery and brain surgery, where the three-dimensional aspect really helps you, and a surgeon can learn something 10 times quicker because he can visualize it in a 3D environment and go back and go underneath and fly through the parts of the body, and it's really exciting what's happening.
Talk to us a little bit about you and Charles and how you came to this project.
Well, Charles was my client. I had a high-tech ad agency, and quite apart from him, I started to fly around the world with a mission group on missions with surgeons helping kids. And I would come back from China and bring pictures to show them of the 300 kids we turned away because we didn't have the money. So he would, in the beginning, he would pay me to not make him look at the pictures. That was my fundraising technique. And then I'll never forget, and so I kind of got him
This was not cleft surgery, this was other...
It was clefts and it was burns, and I was going to China a lot. I was in my 30s. So I got a little bolder, and at one of my meetings where I was showing him ads for his company, I slid a brochure, an invitation for a fundraiser across the table, and I thought it was a career-ending mistake because he looked at it and he goes, these things are horrible, I hate this, what do you want? And I said, oh, well, we're just doing a fundraiser. I thought you'd buy a ticket for $150 or a table, but never mind. And he said, no, I'll look at it. I go, you remember all those kids in China? And I go, we're just not raising enough money. He goes, oh, I hate these things. The food's bad and the speakers are bad.
Rubber chicken, right?
Yeah. So I was going, oh, this is going to just end it right here. And he goes, well, what's your goal? What's the whole point? Why would you do something like this? I said, well, we're trying to raise $100,000. And he goes, and he thinks, and he goes, all right, I'll give you $100,000. Get a check on the way out from Judy. So that was the first dollar he ever gave to help kids with clefts. And he's given many more since then.
Many other checks.
Yeah.
But talk us through, so how does
Charles Wong
that
is an extremely generous guy, and I've seen him give away many, many tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's never in the paper, and he's not like a Ted Turner that would throw a press conference when he's very quiet in his philanthropy and very, very generous. And without his startup gift, and he brought in his mentor, who owns 20% of CA stock, there would not be a Smile Train because they put it on the track. And we announced the project, ironically, right here at the Asia Society in 1997.
So that's great. So all the support that everyone here gives as their Asia Society membership certainly played a role in that, I'm sure. Talk a little bit about, so from that startup gift to today, that journey of the company.
Well, we started out as two businessmen starting a charity, so we kind of got a piece of paper and wrote down on it all the things that bugged us about charities, like huge overhead and ineffectiveness and poor management, and we really wrote it down and said, we don't want to do that, and these are the things that matter to us. So we conceived of a charity that would be managed like a business, that would be very lean with small overhead, small staff, and highly effective. We didn't want to do a charity just because we were getting old and we wanted to kill time, or we were going to die soon, or we wanted to actually solve a problem. So of all the surgeries I would see on my trips to China, clefts were amazing. They stood out because the majority of surgeries really mitigate a problem. The degree of improvement will be, 5%. The limp isn't as bad. The burn is a little bit better. The function is slightly improved. Where cleft surgery, as you'll see in this movie, takes a kid from here to there, the improvement's 100,000% in less than an hour. We hand babies back to their mothers after an hour in the OR, and they don't even recognize their own baby. They say, no, you made a mistake. This is not my child.
Okay.
Now, once it was the wrong baby. But when you're doing 110,000 surgeries a year, these things are going to happen.
So give us some of those statistics, where they are so impressive. So you have the 100,000 surgeries a year.
110,000 a year, and we're past the 500,000th surgery. And to put into perspective, the biggest cleft charity in America is Operation Smile. They've been around 25 years, and they do 8,000 surgeries a year after 25 years. So we found this new business model, and it's almost like a Google-like situation where we've just scaled tremendously because it's the right mousetrap. Instead of sending in a team of American doctors, and I did that for years, on a mission with American nurses, well-intentioned, great people sacrificing their vacation, we empower the local Indian, Chinese, Peruvian, Bangladeshi surgeon to do it. And that is really embraced by the local community, and it's the teach a man to fish is the right way to do it because they can operate every day, they can operate for 90% less money, and it just lifts the community up instead of demoralizing them when those Americans come and they throw a press conference and they push all the locals out of the way.
78 countries? Talk us through that.
We're in 78 of the world's poorest countries. We're very systematic about where we go. We get calls every day inviting us places, but we have a spreadsheet of the top 100 poorest countries, and we have them rated by cleft births and by poverty. So the term developing countries applies to a broad range of countries that, some of them are 100 times richer than the other countries. Mm-hmm. So we really want to maximize our impact, so we go to the places where there are the largest numbers of the poorest children with cleft. And China and India are
the highest.
Right at the top. China and India each have about 35,000 new babies born with clefts every year. So that's 70,000 new babies of the 190,000 born in developing countries.
So the big question, why?
Well, the incidence varies by ethnicity. Asians, it's 1 in 500 births. Caucasians, it's 1 in 750 births. Mm-hmm. And blacks, it's 1 in 1,200. Okay. So it indexes to your genetic profile, and it also correlates with environmental issues like, India, the malnutrition is a big issue, and you have young girls giving birth at a young age, malnourished, same with China. So it indexes to poverty, too. Okay. It really is a disease of poverty because anywhere there is money, you will not find a single cleft. In the United States, 5,000 babies are born every year with clefts, and every single one, no matter who they are, where they live, how poor they are, gets their first surgery at or around 3 months.
But you can still be well-to-do and get cleft? Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but just that it'll get fixed.
We think it's eradicated because it's quietly the first surgery is at 3 months. By the time we see a little kid walking around 5 or 6 years old, they've had 2 or 3 surgeries, and the surgeries continue until they're 20. Right. So we walk down the street. Most of us, you can recognize a bad cleft on someone who's much older, who was operated on 40, 50 years ago. But clefts have virtually been eradicated here and in Europe because there's money, and that's our goal with the developing world. And it's so unfair because if someone came up with a cure for diabetes and says, no, only children in the U.S. and Europe are going to get this, but that is effectively what has happened with clefts. The cure is there. It's not a medical problem at all. The only reason 3 to 4 million kids are walking around with these holes in their faces is because they're poor.
Talk about the money that you have and how much what your goals are.
Not enough.
About that. Yeah.
Money.
How much does each surgery cost?
Each surgery costs $250. Which in the U.S. the same surgery would be $10,000. And it's ironic because Pinky in this film, when we won the Oscar, we brought her here to go on stage, and she's standing on the red carpet next to Angelina Jolie, and it was ironic that one of Angelina Jolie's shoes cost more than her surgery. So money is our biggest constraint. If Bill Gates will go, who has seen Smile Pinky actually, if he woke up tomorrow and sent us $3 billion, we'd have the problem solved in a couple of years. Now I think we'll have it solved in 4 or 5 or 6 years or 7 years. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
You can, even though there are all these new births every year.
There are new births, but they're a tiny percentage. We help kids up to 40 years old, so the new births will be 1/40th of that. It really is the backlog. Our average age of our patients is 7 years, and in countries where we're doing a good job, that goes down. because the gold standard is the U.S., 3 months. Right. And we go on these missions all the time. I was just in Haiti in February, and I met this poor guy, 42 years old, with a horrific cleft. So imagine waiting 42 years for a surgery that takes 45 minutes.
And $250.
And $250 bucks.
Yeah. And so do you go to the different ages, and how do you do the repeat surgeries? Talk about that.
Well, the repeat surgeries we do some, but most of these kids, they never come back because they're so poor. They come from 100 kilometers away. It's a great hardship for the dad or the mom to miss work or to travel or to sell their rickshaw to get there. I mean, it's like a Herculean effort to get the first surgery. So to come back, even to get speech therapy, they're like, I don't care if she can talk. I just want the hole closed, you know. And their lives are just so brutal. It's not there.
But in a way, it's improved already that they
98% of the bang for your buck is in that first surgery. It saves the kids. It saves the families, because when they're walking around with this hole in their face, they're really a societal outcast, and it destroys the family. In many countries, when the child is born, the husband thinks the wife slept with the devil and throws them both out in the street. They give the kid a horrible name. The villages will run the family out of the village. No kid can marry from that family because they're viewed as defective gene pool type of thing. So the ripples are just horrible. And conversely, when we fix the cleft, a lot of the kids go back to the village and they get a new name. And sometimes the husband takes the wife back in the house and things go in reverse and go back together.
Okay. Just before we show the movie, talk about the movie, how that came about, and your role in it.
Well, the movie has been like the best thing to happen to us in a long time. We went to Hollywood. We're in these operating rooms all the time, and it's high drama to hand a baby back or to see this transformation. So we went to Hollywood, and I wrote to George Clooney, and I was convinced he would star in this feature film. And no one had any interest, so came back from Hollywood with our tails between our legs and said, let's do a documentary and try to win an Oscar. So we searched all the best documentary directors. We hired a great one, Megan Mylan. She did Lost Boys of Sudan. And she was not just a big talent, but a big heart. She poured everything into it. And we got done, and we missed the Oscar deadline by 1 week. So we held the movie for an entire year, which was a gamble. And then it won, and it's really helped us tremendously with awareness.
Sure, and we're about to see this. So tell us about the HBO.
It's on HBO. Also, you'll see it tonight, and we brought some copies of the film so you can take one home. And it's on demand on HBO, and it's also scheduled.
Okay, but the reason you said you have to win the Oscar is because trying to get money through the documentary or getting awareness through just a theatrical release of a doc.
Well, we thought we could reach millions of people because we've been writing to reporters for 10 years trying to get articles. And if it's not AIDS, if it's not malaria, if it's not TB, no one is interested. It's been frustrating. So this put us on the front page, and now people are calling us. And sure enough, 2 weeks after the Oscar nomination, George Clooney called me. No, that's just a fantasy I'm making up in my head.
So I know for a lot of folks who were kind of caught up in the Slumdog hysteria, I had to tell people, there was another movie set in India among poor kids that you should see. And so how much was it a problem to have Slumdog at the same time? And
No, it helped us tremendously, the interest in India. We kind of rode their coattails. And in India itself, they were calling us the real Slumdog. Because, a lot of the actors in Slumdog were from Britain, and the director was British, but ours was American. So not only were our kids real and the stars, or the doctors were Indian real, and it had a happy ending. Right. And so it really helped us.
All right. I think we're ready to see this film. You all ready? Yeah, all right. Brian Mullaney, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Get your questions ready.